Welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Newell with MSO News Sports, and we have the sports writers here with us, Phil Stacey, Matt Williams, and Nick Kukuru here to talk North Shore sports. We got a lot of things to discuss. We'll get to the Fiesta in a moment here, the big event in Gloucester this week. But before we do that, Phil, let's begin with some of the highlights from this past weekend. St. John's Prep lacrosse, a favorite for that state title, or at least to be in that state title game. And they came away with a state title championship on Sunday, and you were there. So your feedback on that game.
Yeah. Viva, everyone, in the spirit of the week. I don't think anyone is surprised that St. John's Prep won its third straight title, but the way in which they did so was certainly surprising. Fantastic game on Sunday in the Division I state final against BC High, who they were playing for the third straight year for the title. Prep was up 8-6 at halftime. BC High with a great third quarter, scored 7 goals in that quarter to just 1 for the Prep. And then the Prep reversed course in the fourth quarter, came out, scored 7 times of their own, held BC High to just 1 goal. And they emerged with a 16-14 win. Great game, sellout crowd, plenty of emotion, both sides. Came right down to the final minute. Prep was holding the 1-goal lead. BC High get called for a 1-minute locked-in penalty, which appeared a little bit dubious to me, but Prep took advantage, scored on the man advantage, and pulled away from there. So, yeah, 3 straight state titles for St. John's. They're 61-4 over the last 3 seasons. Fantastic senior class. Jimmy Ayers played his best when it mattered most. 5 goals and an assist the other day in the championship win. Jake Vanna, 4 goals, 2 assists. Matty Morrow, 3 goals. Some great defensive work by the team's sophomores, Sam Wilmot, Ryan DeLucia, and Jack Weissenberger. Wilmot, the long pole, scored his first career goal in the game, which was a big one. Another big goal from a senior, Nate Jones, helped St. John's begin its comeback. Gavin Kornitsky in goal. Another strong game for him. I mean, it doesn't look that way with 14 goals allowed, but he had some big saves in the fourth quarter as his team was making its comeback and then eventually took the lead. So, again, as I said, is it a surprise? No, but it's not like they just snap their fingers and they win championships. There's a lot of work that goes into it. It's a 90-day grind, and they challenge themselves against the best of the best. I mean, John Pinchon, the head coach, purposely scheduled one of the nation's top teams across the board in any realm, Brunswick, New Jersey. And his team got pounded. And even though it wasn't recognized by the MIAA, he insisted that be included on their records. So, a lot of people will say, "Oh, St. John's went 22-1 this year." 22-1. He insisted it's actually 22-2 because he counts that as a loss for his team. It was a game that made his team better. Seeing that kind of competition, they had to bring it every game. And they were able to do it, especially in the fourth quarter of the final game of the season.
Even with my high integrity standards, Phil, I wouldn't have counted that game if I was the coach. You know what I mean?
No.
I wouldn't have. If you don't have to, don't count it.
I think, yeah, John just holds his team to a very high standard, I would say. I think he wanted them to know that, technically it was a game scrimmage. But we're counting it because when we put on the uniforms in season and play another team, that's a game. And he wanted them to know that they're not perfect, that it does take work, that you have to constantly strive to get better. And as I said, they were able to do that.
Phil, it reminds me of a comment that John Wilkins made over in Marblehead a couple of weeks ago now. I think Nick Giannino was at that game on that. I think it was a Friday, right? And you were over at the Prep that night.
Yeah.
He said it's a game of streaks. Or runs rather, game of runs, and it does seem that. I mean, you watch hockey. Hockey has runs at times, but not like lacrosse has. I mean, right? I mean,
no. I mean, there's a goal. After every goal, there's a face-off, as there is in hockey. But possession on that face-off is so much different than in hockey. Possession means you get the ball and have a chance to score right away, whether it's off a fast break, whether it's in transition, whether it's setting up the offense and looking for a cut and trying to beat the slide and score. But you can really get on a run there. And, the other offense might not even have a chance to touch the ball. It'd be more like in football if you scored and then there was some kind of, scrum for the ball as opposed to kicking off. So where you could constantly get possession, time after time after time without having to play defense. And that's what it was for St. John's. And a lot of that credit goes to Chris Esposito, the Preps faceoff man. He won 17 draws the other day out of 29, but I want to say he was 7 for 9 in that fourth quarter, which made a huge difference. And you brought up John Wilkins too. While I'm talking about that, I mean, Marblehead shouldn't be forgotten here. Fantastic run, best ever season they ever had. Reached the state semifinals for the first time ever. Lost only one game, so they had a 21-game winning streak going into it. That was kind of a crazy game, not because of the score. They lost to Duxbury 12-4 in the state semifinals, but game was down in Weymouth. They began the game. Duxbury scored the first 2 goals, and Carter Laramie scores for Marblehead about 7 minutes in. They see lightning across the sky, so they, halt the game. As we know, 30 minutes delay for lightning, thunder, any subsequent flash of lightning they see that begins the 30 minutes over again. Well, for the next 2 hours and I think it was 10 minutes or so, pouring rain, thunder, lightning, things eventually cleared. They started back up again at I want to say 9:03 or something like that. And the game ended about 10:15. But great season for Marblehead. Connor Cronin finished with 131 points on the year. That's second most all time in North Shore boys lacrosse scoring annals. He's a career leader in scoring at Marblehead. He's a single season leading scorer at Marblehead. The aforementioned Carter Laramie had 50 goals. You had the faceoff guy, Baxter Jennings, had 40 goals. Finn Miniacci had a wonderful season in goal for Marblehead. So it was a terrific season for Marblehead. It's not as if the cupboard's going to be bare either. They're losing some great players, including Sam Anisi on defense, but they've got a lot of really talented juniors ready to assume bigger leadership roles next year and some skillful young guys that are chopping at the bit to get their opportunity to shine. So I don't think Marblehead is going to be bumped off that NEC mountaintop anytime soon.
Phil, you mentioned Marblehead. Maybe I'll use Marblehead as our transition here. I wasn't going to go this way, but I did want to mention the Marblehead baseball team. So you talk about tournaments and big wins in the tournament. Their wins in the tournament, including, I guess, their second road win of the tournament was, or maybe it was their first road win, was really a spectacular big moment. Matt, you could probably reflect on this as well as, better than I can, but that was a quite a statement win for that Marblehead baseball team. And we didn't have any teams in the state finals from the North Shore in baseball or softball this past weekend, but that strikes me as a kind of a memorable tournament game this year with a North Shore team.
Yeah, it was a nice upset. I mean, they beat the number 4 seed Hopkinton 8-4 after struggling. We talked about it a little bit a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they struggled with Somerville out of the GBL in their prelim game, and you're thinking, oh boy, we're in trouble now. They pitched their number 1 and they got in a slugfest with Somerville. And then you go and beat the number 4 seed on the road with your number 2. So that's pretty good. That's pretty good depth. And they certainly had a nice game against Westfield, the Bombers. They lost 4-1 in that round of 16, but acquitted themselves well and represented themselves well. I mean, they were a team that was definitely better than their seed. I mean, they were came out of the blocks on fire in April. Hit some speed bumps there in May, and were heating up there towards the end of the season. So I think they had an offense that could really pound just okay pitching, and certainly had a lot of guys score a lot of runs. I mean, 3 or 4 guys with 20 runs and a bunch of guys with 17, 18, 20 RBI. Shane Keogh, Bodie Bartram, Charlie Sachs, right there, and Ian Maud, that pitcher we were talking about. He graduates 16 wins over the last 2 seasons just himself. He's going to be one of the winningest pitchers ever at Marblehead. I mean, 16 wins, that's more than some teams have had the last 2 seasons, and he's got 16 just by himself. So certainly tip of the cap to Mod.
Yeah, good stuff. I don't know where to go here. Nick Kukuru, I know we bring you in, and just your take on the on this past weekend. I know you had the Manchester Essex tennis team involved in a state championship game. They fell, but your thoughts on the state tournament this year?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I'll be totally honest, it wasn't the greatest year on Cape Ann, but two teams made a Final Four. Manchester Essex, which is not, Manchester Essex girls team, which is not very surprising at all. Both lost to a rival too. Manchester Essex tennis lost to Hamilton Wenham. They went 16-6 this year, and they all 6 of their losses came against state champs. So they lost 3 times to Hamilton Wenham on Division 4. They lost twice to Newburyport, who won Division 3, and they lost to Masconomet, who won Division 2. So, unless you won the state championship, Manchester Essex was going to beat you. And then girls lacrosse, I mean, they ran into Ipswich. Ipswich just kind of had their number this season. 3rd win. I think 3 wins over Manchester Essex for Ipswich this season in girls lacrosse by a combined 5 goals. So they just kind of had their number in the clutch, it seems.
Yeah. See, and I know that
nobody made it out of the Sweet 16. So
Manchester could get Lexington on the schedule, make it a full state championship sweep there.
Exactly. Maybe next year.
Yeah, exactly.
And a little shout out, of course, to the Newburyport girls lacrosse team. They beat Norwell for the D3 state title in lacrosse. So we've covered lacrosse. We've got some tennis in there. Let me just, since we are on tennis here.
We should say, the Ipswich girls reached the state final.
Yeah.
Before bowing out. They had a great run. In fact, I believe, and Willie, I think you threw this out there, and I believe this was right, that they were trying to become the first team from at least our Salem News readership area to win a state title.
I can't think of any girls
team. Yeah, I couldn't either.
Has Manchester won one, Nick?
No.
So Manchester has it. Newburyport obviously has. They're sort of like on the periphery. We've had teams in the Cape Ann League, but certainly no team. Well, I guess Ipswich isn't in. I was going to say no team in the conference, but Ipswich isn't in the conference either. So, but yeah, I mean that's pretty rare air. Anyway, I can't even think of one that made the state final off the top of my head in girls lacrosse.
No, neither can I. And I mean, they were.
Pretty tough sport to crack. I mean, it's pretty well dominated by a few teams on the South Shore there. I mean, it's, not really, and it's always been a statewide tournament besides just a couple of years where they had the North there. So, I mean, it was really, really always hard to get very far. I mean, I think, Peabody maybe made a Final Four in like 2009 or so, 8, 6, something like that. Marblehead maybe got to a North final a couple of times when they were really, really good under Andy.
Yeah, they might have been Andy. That's right.
But they never won it. I don't think. Won the North, I should say. Certainly didn't win the whole shebang. I think Masco went to one North final for girls before they went to the statewide format there. So pretty rare air there for Coach Tiv and her Flather twins, and we know they've got the Greenleafs back, and I think one of the 2 Gromkos is back, so they're going to be right in the mix again next season, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they were the top seed this year in Division 4. Kind of burned through the playoffs, faced Dover Sherborne in the final, led. I want to say it was 5-3 at halftime. But as we talked about, game of runs, Dover Sherborne comes out, scores 6 straight in the second half. Ipswich had to play catch up. They furiously rallied. Got it to 10-9 late in the game, but weren't able to get that decisive, or I should say equalizing goal late. So fantastic season for them. Tough to go out, but still.
Had to think the experience was part of it. I mean, Dover Sherborne, the defending champs, they beat Manchester in the title game by 3 goals last year. So Ipswich gained that valuable experience that hopefully they can use next year. I mean, which is just a little bit, it's kind of similar thing with the girls tennis. with Mask on Ahmed. It's like when you're the defending champ and you're the quote unquote lower seed, it's like, these power seeds are so accurate and everything, but I don't know. I mean, it's you really, I mean, Ipswich was a favorite, but against the defending champs, are you ever really a favorite? I don't know.
Right.
It's like Mask of girls tennis was the quote unquote underdog, and they were undefeated. Dover, I don't think, was undefeated, but Masco was undefeated, and Bishop Stang was supposed to be the higher seed, and of course Masco beat him 5-0. Like I know the power seeds are math, but like I don't know how you go undefeated, win the state title, then go undefeated again, and you're supposed to be some kind of underdog. Like I just don't buy that.
Yeah. And then just to touch on on other girls tennis, as we noted, I think Masco did win the D2 title in girls tennis. Newburyport won the D3 title, and Hamilton won, and we were just talking about with the D4 championship with that 4-1 win over Manchester Essex. So there's the tournament. Any other tournament thoughts from you guys? Whether it be lacrosse, baseball, softball, or anything like that, tennis.
Top two singles players back for Hamilton Wenham next year, so that the dynasty may continue. I mean, that's just remarkable for a team that doesn't have a home court to have so many good tennis players. Back-to-back state titles, and they don't even have a home court. I mean, that's wild. And the interesting thing to me, they moved the match from MIT to Endicott because of the weather, and Hamilton Wenham, without a home court, being nomads, have played pretty much everywhere on the North Shore: the Mac, Pingree, Gordon, you name it, Patton Park. But they had actually never played at Endicott before, of all the places. Like, you'd think that, since they have to find courts all the time, they might have played there and had a little advantage. But that was the first one. They added it to the list, and maybe it'll be their good luck place from now on.
Will, you should mention too the great run that Peabody softball had. I know you saw their last game against Central Catholic, and the great core that they had this season. I know they have Abby Betancourt coming back and all, but they really had an excellent team chemistry this year, it seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, I think any of the top few teams in the softball really could have won. I thought that was a fantastic softball game against Central Catholic. I mean, you're in a Division I collegiate park, and you had 3 over the fence home runs. 2 of them by Peabody, 1 by Central, but Central's happened to come with a runner on base, and it was a 2-run shot, whereas Peabody's were solo shots. So that was the difference there. I mean, I know there was some talk about the so-called short fence at Kiley, and maybe that made a difference in the North Andover game. But I think you go to this Division I park and hit 2 bombs over the fence, you've proven that that was silliness for people to be talking about that. But no, I mean, just a good team. I mean, they returned 10, I believe 8 of the 10 that played, including the DP, the designated player, which is the same as the DH. I don't know, softball they call it the DP, but anyway, you got your 9 fielders and your DH, DP. So 8 of the 10 are back, but the 2 that they're losing are really big, important ones. Penny's back. Obviously, we've talked about a ton with the student athlete award here, and Bo Betancourt, the catcher. I mean, I think they were 61-6 in their 3 years, and of course, neither one of them had a freshman season because it was wiped out by COVID there. But just 2 absolutely fantastic leaders, and just 2 fantastic sisters. It's hard to be the oldest kid sometimes. You have to be a leader from the time you're 7 or 8 years old, leading the pack. And I think it was really cool for both Penny and Bo to have their little sisters on the team with them this year. Obviously Bo's being a little bit more famous, shall we say, than Penny's sisters. But, I just remember the picture in my head of Bo in between innings. She stayed out behind the plate there talking to the plate umpire for quite a long time. And I can only surmise that she was trying to figure out what the deal was with this strike zone, because the strike zone in this game was not very good. And it just struck me, this was at the same time the act of a really smart catcher and a really caring sister, sticking up for not just for her pitcher, but for her sister too. So that was really one of those images from that game that'll stay with me. Just a smart, savvy kid that's been playing the game for 15 years that'll do great things in college, and was just always looking out for her blood sisters and her figurative sisters there that were her teammates.
We should mention too, Willie, that both of those girls earned Agana scholarships this year. I got the list of those early today. Bo is going to Bates, right? Bo's going to play softball at Bates. She was an Agana scholarship recipient, and so was Penny Spack, who's going to the University of Rhode Island. I know. There was another PBD athlete too, Sarah DeVasta. Sarah is going to South Carolina, if I'm remembering that right. And
That's correct,
she was also an Agana scholarship award winner. So congratulations to them. I know we also had Catherine Troutman, a Marblehead, who I want to say is going to the University of Colorado. She was honored. Maria Ryan from Bishop Fenwick, who's going to the College of the Holy Cross. Oh God, who else was there? There was some St. Mary's kids I know. Allie Fritz, I think, was one of them. Allie Fritz from St. Mary's. Oh geez, who else?
One
Celia
more
Carboni.
track.
What's that?
One more track guy, I guess. Nathan Hammerschmidt Legal from Essex Tech, who I guess was the valedictorian of Essex Tech and also ran track for the Hawks. He's going to Dartmouth. He got
nice.
George Barakis scholarship from the Agganis Foundation. So well done by the Hawks.
Oh, cool.
One thing, but we were just talking about Peabody softball. Just one other thought. I went to one game this year, and I want to do a shout out to Coach Tawny Palmieri, who, she has a smile on her face. She's always positive. She seems like she's enjoying the game. The kids are enjoying the game, and that's just a great thing to see that. Doesn't overdo it, but it just seems to be at the right, a real positive kind of attitude for her team. And like I said, it helps to have a smile on your face once in a while. We don't do it enough right here on this podcast. Once in a while, Nick Kukuru will, and Phil is there now, but for the most part, we could smile a bit more. But anyways, they had a great season and a great run. So congratulations to them. Very tough competition though in D1 softball, that's for sure.
That Taunton, I mean, some people were overlooking that Taunton team. I remember telling a couple of people a few weeks ago, like, I kind of think they're better than everybody, and they certainly showed it with the whooping they put on Central Catholic. Can't say I was like exactly shocked by that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get to the biggest sporting event, certainly for the month of June here, and that's the Fiesta in Gloucester. Nick Kukuru, I know Phil has a lot of questions to pepper at you about this event, and I'll let him get going with the first question here. This is a rehearsed segment to some extent, but Phil, what do you have for Nick? What are your questions for him?
Have at it.
I want to know what will be the slickest substance on the greasy pole this year.
Ooh.
Well, I don't know. They use like environmentally friendly, biodegradable stuff now, and it's actually a big controversy. A lot of the old timers think it's way too easy now.
Really?
Yeah. They used to use
and by
black
the old
sludge,
timers, I mean,
and
I like
so people like my age now we can count in there. So
I like when you say the old timers, because it's almost like they're the official, unofficial keepers of the pole, if that's the right way to say it. Like no, I mean, like, and I'm serious, like they, there's no system that determines who is the be all end all in terms of what this should be. But these guys who have watched it for decades upon decades, I'm sure for them it's just slop it up there. It doesn't have to be biodegradable or family friendly or anything like that. I mean, so there isn't any grape jelly, there isn't any
sometimes they'll use, like, I'm gonna say, sometimes they'll use banana peels. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But nothing that's like I don't know, Teddy peanut butter spread or whatever.
No, nothing like that. No,
It's
it's grease.
sort of like,
it's legit grease.
It used to, didn't it used to be like petroleum products though? I mean, it wasn't
I think so.
environmentally friendly.
Yeah,
right?
I think
Or
it did
like
not
that?
used to be environmentally friendly at all.
Is this sort of like when they juice the baseball, or like they change the pine top? Like do they alter the formula to try to make it like more entertaining for the crowd? Like, oh, it's too slippery, let's tweak it, or maybe they're
Throw
trying
some
to
rosin up
manipulate
there.
things, like when they juice the baseball to get more home runs.
I think once every few years they will, if enough people start chirping, they'll make it a little more difficult, and it lasts forever, and they won't do that again.
That's,
Let's be honest, it loses its luster around like after 3 rounds in, you see about 130 people walk it. It's I mean it's great for the first 30 or 40, and then you're like, all right, let's get this show on the road. Somebody take it down. So there's been some years where it's been 5 or 6 rounds and it's kind of brutal. But if it's
Like
like
the home
second or
run
third
derby, you
round,
gotta have
it's great.
stamina.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
exactly.
well, I know that the Greasy Pole is the Woodstock of the North Shore, where we get about 400,000 people out there every year. But for the uninitiated, take us through what it is, how many days it lasts, how many walkers there are, and how you ultimately win.
So yeah, I mean, it starts. So they got 3 competitions: Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's been that way for about 25 years now. They used to just be Friday, Saturday. So Friday's like the younger guys, and there's probably about 50 a day, I'd say. And so the winner of Friday gets to walk first on Saturday, and Saturdays is kind of the older guys who haven't won yet, and the Friday guys who haven't moved on to Sunday yet. And the winner of that goes on to Sunday, walks first, and Sunday is all past champs or people kind of walking in the name of a past champ. So I think that has the fewest walkers, but it also probably has the best field. So that one usually goes quick. I don't think that one's gotten out of the second round in a while.
Now, obviously, no one can win on the first round.
Yeah, you get the courtesy round. Everyone gets a chance to walk once, show off their cost. Most of them are in costumes. They'll show off their costumes.
How high, Nick, is the pole above the water?
So at low tide, it's about 25 feet. High tide, it's probably less than 10, but low tide, it's a pretty good drop, 25, 26 feet. And
Have you ever
the
seen
pole's
someone
40
get
feet
really
long.
hurt on a fall?
Yes. They say, actually a few years ago, somebody got a bad neck injury. It was at the end when everyone jumped off and he got jumped on.
Okay.
So
Somebody landed on him.
someone landed on him. Yep. So they're not allowed to
Yeah.
all do that at the end. They have to disbark the greasy pole in an orderly fashion now. And when it's over, everyone just kind of mad dashes. They get their one last walk in, and someone got landed on. So
I think
All right.
that's the
So
first
you've
time
obviously you've watched this in a professional and before you worked at the newspaper, non-professional manner
yes.
for many, many years. What would you say is the key to winning this thing?
So there's a lot of different strategies actually. Kind of probably depends on your body type. There's some guys, the littler guys can really, get those quick choppy feet and go through it. But there's some other guys who you'd think wouldn't be that great at it, but they got big feet and they don't go as fast, but they can just kind of get through the slippery parts.
Easy
I
now.
think I've seen it once or twice, Nick. I think the thinner you are and the faster you are, to me that's been the winning
Sometimes
strategy.
there's some that break that mold though that are a little more burly and can still get through it.
But
Bill, are you saying that my body type would not win the greasy?
I don't know what's your shoe size. The couple of guys that come to mind have like size 15 feet, and they can just kind of wrap their feet around it and get it doesn't look as pretty, but they don't lose their balance.
All right, and to what goes the victor of the greasy pole?
Just bragging rights. You get to keep your flag, and just bragging rights, pretty much.
But it's not just like, hey, you won, nice job. This is a big to do.
Yeah, they all carry you off the beach onto beach court. There's like a big greasy pole shrine on beach court and drop you off there. They all clean up at the Felicia Oil Company. So that's usually where I get my interviews, where they're hosing themselves off. That's the best spot for me to grab my post greasy pole interview.
I'm guessing the soda pops will be free of charge to the winner for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes the interviews are a little hairy. Let's be honest.
Nick, have you had any personal experience yourself walking the greasy pole?
No, when I was a kid, but not like real. I never entered the greasy pole competition. No.
Okay. All right. Okay.
No thanks. It's not for me. I've rode same boats a couple times, and that wasn't for me either. No.
And that's another big part of the whole weekend as well, right? The same boat races.
Yeah, boat race. I mean, I like the boat races. It's kind of, it's a little more, sporty, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a good team sport too. You got to be perfectly in sync. All 10 oars got to be in the water.
yeah.
But
No,
it's not as
absolutely.
exciting. It doesn't have the sizzle of the greasy pole, that's for sure.
The
I gotta
sizzle of the
say,
slime.
Yeah.
you're not going to get this kind of greasy pole talk anywhere else. This is
No.
gold this week. This is true gold, I think.
Ratings grabber, that's for sure.
Hey,
Yeah,
just
well,
just to switch gears quickly, we should say we mentioned the Aganis scholarship winners a few minutes ago. The Aganis games, the annual Aganis games, begin this weekend, Sunday. We have baseball, softball, and the 2 lacrosse games, I think, on Sunday it is. Then on, what do we got? Monday is the boys and girls basketball over at Lynn Classical. The boys and girls soccer are Tuesday at Manning Field in Lynn, and then of course the 61st annual Aganis All-Star Football Classic will be Wednesday. A lot of times it's Thursday, but this year it's Wednesday, June 28th at Manning Field, 6 o'clock. There, I know you can go to AganisFoundation.com for tickets to anything. They'll also be available at the door. And the Little League All-Star tournaments start this weekend too. District 15, District 16. So good luck to all of our local teams taking part in that.
all right. And I know you guys will get the information out more on the Aganis game in the papers, as well as will we on our website as well. But I think it's been Wednesday, the football game, for a few years now, but years ago, it definitely was on Thursdays. It was, but I think they pack more into that Sunday thing now than they ever used to, I think. So get some nights out of the way. Anything else, gentlemen, you guys want to touch on? Red Sox are on a hot streak. Alex Cora, 400 career coaching wins with the Sox. Obviously a big weekend for them. They're back in the hunt here. No? Okay.
They still don't move the needle.
Still in last place though. I mean, so that's like kind of. I mean, I know like the divisions are what they are. I mean, the Twins here are leading the Central under 500, but I mean the Red Sox are 5th out of 5, so that's not. Still, it's kind of hard to get excited about, right? I mean,
Yeah, if they had a 6-team division or the old 10-team league or whatever, they wouldn't be in last place. There you go.
yeah,
Right.
that's like
Yes.
well, I mean, the last place team in the SEC thinks it would beat the first place team in the Big Ten, but that's not how it works. And I mean, even if they did the playoffs like basketball, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they are in 8th. So they're not even a surefire thing. I mean, even if the divisions didn't matter like basketball, they wouldn't be a surefire playoff team by any means. They're in 8th by a game and a half, only 2 games ahead of the Twins. So I mean, it's like they're hanging in there, but I don't know. You kind of got to get out of the cellar before people get really excited, right?
Well, I watch them, especially now that the playoffs are over for hockey and the Celtics are out. I watch them pretty much every night, whether I'm working, I have it on in the background, or if I get a night off and I'm just, sitting here watching it or whatever. But they're, what are that phrase they use, like to determine how popular someone or something is? Like, is it Q rating? Is that what that is?
One of them, yeah, sure.
All right. Their Q rating is probably where the 8-track cassette player is these days. There's just there's just nothing to move the needle about this team. I mean, when they had, David Ortiz or Manny Ramirez, where it was like, oh, I got to stop and watch these guys hit, or I gotta, it's appointment TV to watch Pedro Martinez pitch. Even more recently, like you want to watch Mookie Betts or you want to watch Chris Sale when he was healthy or whatnot. There isn't a needle mover now. I mean, Devers is an unbelievable player. Don't get me wrong, but you don't stop to watch him bat or, say, oh, he's coming up third next inning. It's like, I'm going to get something to eat or whatever, I mean, so I don't think it's any fault of the players necessarily. It's just that ownership has done a terrible job. They seem kind of checked out, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And the general manager, who's only, he can only do what his bosses want him to do financially. He hasn't made great moves either, even within those constraints. So it's just not an interesting team to watch. And that's stupid because I say I watch them almost every night, but it's just kind of like, oh, they won. Oh, great. Oh, they lost. Yeah, like got to do something to excite me here. And I think baseball is more exciting this season than it has been in several. I love the new changes, but
Yeah.
this team just doesn't, I remember actually watching last night, and I'm like, I literally don't even know who these relief pitchers are. Like, who the hell is Winkowski? Like, I had no idea who it was. I think if you put 10 faces of Red Sox players, just their headshots up, and ask the average fan, they might know two. You might know what Devers looks like. You might know what Justin Turner looks like because of his beard. Maybe you know Alex Verdugo, but the average person is not going to know who the hell these guys are. Who's going to know who James Paxton is? Who's going to know how Connor Wong looks? It's just they don't have a personality.
Bill, we are out of time on that note, but they have a couple of beards. They can go by that. That's a big help, I think, when you're trying to identify a few guys. But on that note, we'll stop. Gentlemen, thank you.